Alrighty. Let's see here. Why? Oh, I did do the wrong camera. There we go. Welcome, everybody. We are going to be talking about the Hifi ecosystem. The way this works is you throw your questions, anything you want to ask me in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer. Let me make sure that my mic is working real quick. All right. Comment in the chat if you can hear my mic all right. Perfect. Okay. I've got a couple of questions that we took from the community in our Discord server. And so I'll go ahead and get started with those, and then I'll jump over to the chat, and you can do any follow-ups from there. So let me get that pulled up real quick for me. All right, so a couple of things. Let's just start off with some real, foundation to what we're doing and where we're headed. This will probably be, I think, one of the more important aspects of our conversation today, because it just lays out very logically exactly what we're trying to accomplish with our ecosystem. So, for starters, we have to start with our MFT token and our lending protocol. So when you think about our lending protocol, there's a real value driver back to our community through the token, which is our success is measured by the amount of debt we service. Our ability to service debt is directly tied to the total value locked within our lending protocol. So it stands to reason. The more that we can get locked within the protocol, the more debt we can service, which with our value accrual towards MFT, eventually the Hifi token, we will, will drive more and more value back as that grows. So our ecosystem initiative is basically centered on this singular goal. How can we accelerate and amplify the core team's effort to lock more and more value within the Hifi lending protocol? And that starts with, well, first, we need to be compatible with several types of collateral. And ideally, those collateral types will be solving a very large challenge or pain point for them. If we can solve a real large pain point for our target audience, then they'll use us and we'll service more debt. And it sounds very basic, but it's really important that we have this common understanding to understand, how this ecosystem play is rational. So the largest pain point that we can solve right now is to onboard novel collateral types, especially around NFTs, because NFTs are inherently illiquid, idle, and capital inefficient. And what's beautiful is if we can build the infrastructure to make NFTs compatible with our lending protocol, we open ourselves up to a massive, massive industry segment of cryptocurrency that is completely underserved, and stands to really slingshot our growth. And so building that infrastructure and making NFTs compatible with our lending protocol, we solve, kind of the trade-off you make when you purchase NFTs, which is they're illiquid, idle, and capital inefficient. So imagine with me, if you will, a new NFT project that launches, and rather than just being, your typical profile picture type NFT with the promise of swag as its utility, that you could actually stake that NFT and put it to work for you. Our lending protocol unlocks that. So let me give you an example. If I'm an NFT creator and let's say I raise $1 million by selling to my community an NFT project, I can then plug in Hifi, bring my NFT and take that $1 million that my community just raised, and I can invest that back into the community through Hifi by lending it back as a utility layer to our to their customer base, their audience. And it gives them an opportunity to basically interest rate arbitrage other opportunities throughout all of DeFi. There's several different ways that you can borrow resources and make them productive if you are an effective collateral type. You can volatility harvest by adding your borrowed resources to an AMM, an automated market maker like Uniswap. You can borrow stablecoin and then go and farm it on services like Yearn, lend it out on other lending protocols that are variable rate or that are offering high incentives. And so essentially you can make the difference between what it costs you to borrow on our lending protocol and what they're willing to pay you as a part of their customer acquisition strategy. So immediately we become this plug and play utility layer for NFT protocols. So you can see why as we look to grow, this is we're right here. We're about to go to mainnet. We've got a little bit more testing to do on Polygon with an updated version. Our Hifi improvement proposal 1 and our governance form is sitting waiting for us to push it live on Polygon. And then we'll go live onto mainnet, and we want to have some partnerships lined up and some real world use cases where we can tell really cool stories. You'll recall, kind of what steered our ship in this is my personal experience around using MakerDAO to purchase my minivan. This is a real world use case where, being the guy who walked around work trying to pay people back for lunch with Bitcoin, everyone thinking it's just a play, pretend, internet money. And going to being able to finance my minivan and showing and demonstrating people that, hey, this stuff, it has real world value and you actually can tie it into some meaningful, productive type of activities within your portfolio. And so Hifi unlocks that for this entire category of assets, which is NFTs. We want to be the #1 NFT lending protocol, period. And I believe if we can target that segment, there is a very real opportunity for us to just become the #1 lending protocol with no caveats, no targeted assets. It's for all types of crypto. And I think that's very exciting. I think if there were, some, like when I balance my view out, is that's a lot to get to. And we're a small fish right now, but I think as we start to get on the mainnet where the real money is, we're going to have some serious traction in terms of TVL and partnerships. So skimming over some of the questions, let's talk about Sablier and Pondbots. First, we'll start with Sablier. It's a bigger deal. Sablier has product market fit, and which is super exciting. And in order for us to be able to drive value back to MFT, we needed to put a dedicated team in charge of Sablier. And so we have taken Paul. He's in charge of Sablier, and he is, we've announced our intention to spin this off. This thing, takes a little bit of time and is a process. But you'll see in the coming months, I know he's got, I get to peek behind the curtain and see what he's got planned. Very exciting stuff. And first and foremost, compatibility with an NFT lending protocol. So streams will be represented as an NFT. He's got even more exciting announcements coming up. And so stay tuned to Sablier's Twitter, join their Discord. But this is a part of our ecosystem scaling out. In order to multiply and scale, we need to increase our numbers. We need to be able to push forward on multiple fronts in parallel. And it still takes time to build and to build it right. But nonetheless, I think we're laying a really solid foundation by taking our time and being patient, not trying to rush out into chase any sort of cash grab. If there's anything that our community understands is our priority to do things right and well, because we intend on putting our own money into our protocols and the things we build. So it's not something we take lightly whenever we see DeFi protocols and bridges and getting exploited. Seems like a couple every single month. We don't want to be on that list, and we work hard to stay off that list by reducing the amount of complexity within the protocol and getting it audited and getting as many eyeballs as we can on it, for as long as possible before really scaling up with our TVL. So far we've had 0 incidents with the lending protocol. The upcoming changes to the protocol makes it even more usable. You won't have to do an approve transaction before you redeem your H tokens. And so we've got some signatures where you just sign a message and then submit the transaction that has the approval all in one. This, I think, really improves the usability because you don't break up steps and have to wait for a transaction to hit the blockchain before using the protocol and engaging with it right away. So we've really stressed our usability. We've got fantastic engineers working with us. We've scaled our team internally. We've expanded a lot on the marketing side. We have a head of growth that we've recently hired. We have a full-time animator that's working with us on our PawnBots project that's joining our team. And so we can expect that it's very difficult to scale a team in this space because, one, talent is so scarce, and then two, there's a steep learning curve. And the strategy that we've taken is to hire the best people at their skill set and then teach them about blockchain. And so everyone on the first week of joining Hifi gets a crash course in automated market making and DeFi and lending protocols. It's not, it's fun for me to learn about and to teach, but it's a lot to take in. And so onboarding and scaling our team is one of the challenges that we'll continue to have as we grow. So, we're looking for additional engineers. I think we put out an offer this last week. We have some more community managers we're hiring. And so right now it's all about growth as we gear up for our mainnet launch in several months and our ecosystem plays that you're seeing come to fruition. So that's Sabler. Sabler is getting its dedicated team, scaling that out, and we are excited about bringing them on as supported collateral type. Next, let's talk PawnBots. Yesterday, if you're following the PawnBots Twitter, you'll have seen a production that we're quite proud of. Our marketing team is full of extremely talented individuals, and you can see the quality and the depth of care that we put into everything that we do. From the code, if you go and look at it, there is just a real cadence to the code where you can see that Paul and the team have really taken the care to keep things organized so that as auditors come through, they're able to read it, comprehend it with very little time. All the way to our marketing. You look at the effort we're putting into PawnBots and the production quality there. It is top tier. There's no doubt about it. What we're trying to accomplish with PawnBots is different than what we're doing with Sabler. So PawnBots is actually going to be a sales enablement tool for us. We hypothecate that being able to demonstrate our system working in a way where we control all the variables is going to be essential in demonstrating to other NFT projects that we are this plug and play utility layer for them to come in and essentially extend the utility of their own projects. So we'll be able to point to PawnBots and say, look, here is an example of an NFT project that we've put together that is working. You can see the type of engagement we're getting from our audience. You can see the type of rates that they're getting to borrow from. You can see the type of revenue stream that we're getting by lending back to this audience. And so these are all things that are geared towards a sales pitch to NFT projects to enable them to kind of have that light bulb moment where they can say, oh, I can see how adding utility to our NFT project would really be a benefit. And then it also sets a foundation to where we're in a very opportunistic position as we see every major brand in the world do something with the metaverse. As that matures and takes shape, we'll be a core financial pillar in the various metaverse ecosystems that exist out there. So there's opportunities there as well. And especially if we take our time to do things right from the beginning, the scale out will be much easier and faster for us. So that is that's what PondBots is all about. So come and join us. The main value proposition will be to you is that if you are not an NFT lover, if you're skeptical of NFTs, um, you're not wrong to be skeptical. But this will help teach you how teams can add value and utility to their NFT projects. And you're investing in the future of NFTs that are financial tools. We want to financialize the entire NFT segment of our industry. That's not a light statement. It's something that we should all be getting bullish about. So uh, let's let me take a peek at the chat real quick, and I'll address some of these questions coming in. Are the exchanges still using the MFT name without changing? Yes. The MFT name is the name of our token. We have announced over a year ago, way too early. That's one of my regrets. I think I announced that way too early, which is why I hold my tongue on certain things right now. I sort of have a meeting before these AMAs, and I sit down with my team and I say, okay, what are things that we're willing to discuss and what are things that we should not discuss? Because there is a balance here between like talking way too far in the future. I have to live in the future, and then I have to come back to the present and work with the team. But there always has to be this future plan, and then only parts of that plan gets announced publicly because the rollout and expectations, managing the relationship with the community I believe, a delicate balance. So yeah, right now the exchanges is a little bit of a mess, and it makes MFT a little bit of a I believe a gem yet to be discovered by many because of even Binance has the wrong description and still talks about us as a decentralized chat application. I have a direct contact at Binance. At one point, we got them to update it, and then it reverted back. Same thing with CoinMarketCap, which of course they're parent companies, but they have separate divisions within them, separate teams that actually control that. And so I stopped putting effort into it because I think as soon as we gear up for our token launch, the token swap, everything will get corrected then. If not, we'll pursue them harder. So yeah, the correct name of the token is MFT, and we'll do a token swap, at which point it will become the Hifi token. How long for Hifi Improvement Proposal 1? Okay, so this week internally, we've been hammering it with on testnet. And so I expect that a week or two, and then we'll be ready to deploy it onto Polygon, at which point we'll either wait until the end of the current the current market to mature, and then we'll do one more quarter of testing on this version and make sure we've got all the front end kinks and everything is smooth sailing there while we get it audited in parallel. And so if you notice, we had a bit of a gap between when the last market matured and when we deployed the new market, and that was because we thought we would be able to deploy this latest version, but after working through it with the team, it just made more sense to do one more maturity period, and then we'll go live with the next version of the protocol with all these updates. So we kind of work in quarters here because one thing that's really important is that we test the full life cycle of this debt. And so just as important as getting the market up and bootstrapped and liquidity added is the end of it, where we unwind the positions, empty things out of the AMM, our custom AMM, automated market maker, and the redemption. We need to make sure people can actually get their money out at the end. And of course, we test all this on on testnet, but there's I think no excuse for not testing it there. So token swap is in the second and third quarters. We want to know more specific schedule, and I want to know the proportion. Okay, I'll give you my opinion on certain things here, but you have to understand that my judgment is based on my own experience, and it's just one opinion, and I hope we'll have as you can see from the governance forum, we're getting weigh-in from the rest of the community. So in terms of the proportion, the proportion, and I believe that what you're asking here, Lewis, is what is the ratio of MFT tokens to Hifi tokens? Well, this is what I'll say. It is a fact that there is a certain unit bias where um, more less sophisticated investors seem to bias tokens that have a smaller unit price denominated in dollars or your native currency, and it appears cheaper to some, and so I think that's a fact. I don't think it's an intelligent reality, but it is nonetheless a fact, and I like to just make observations and then behave according to what I view as facts. So my where I would recommend today is that we do a 1 to 10 swap, because we are too far on one end of the spectrum, where Binance cited our precision as the reason why we lost our Bitcoin pair. Is between each tick paired against BTC, there was an 8% spread for each tick. So I think it would be nice to get that 8% spread down to less than 1% per tick, and 1 to 10 token ratio would accomplish that. So those are like the two material facts that I see driving that decision, and then of course the conversation you see in our governance form. So when token swap, okay, so this is an excellent question, and trust me, I announced the token swap a year ago. So I think I'm a little cautious in trying to, and I think that was a mistake. I think we should have waited closer to now before announcing the token swap. But here's the reality. We have a couple considerations, and then you can kind of draw conclusions from it. The considerations are this. The token swap needs to be audited, and it needs to be reviewed by the teams at each exchange that we're listed on. I have represented to the exchanges that we would give them, at least 2 months to review the contract. We are not trying to do anything particularly fancy or special here. In fact, I hope that we take from some other DeFi protocols, either Compound, Aave, Synthetics. I look to them a lot for some of the audits and works that's already been done there. If we can retrofit their smart contracts to our needs, if they meet our needs, then it's a much faster process for the exchanges who've already listed those tokens to say, oh yeah, this is, you changed the name, this is the same smart contract, we're good to go. So that's something that would accelerate it. And so I don't want to get too cute with anything we do there. I would like to say, focused on, let's get cute on our value proposition and solving pain points, and not doing fancy things with the token smart contract, because a lot of our personal wealth gets tied up in that asset, and it would be devastating if we did something there that led to additional complexity and any sort of exploit. So the token swap is then okay. So we've promised 2 months to exchanges, and we can reduce that amount of time by doing something that's already been done before. And then the last consideration is exactly what the new token economics look like. We have had for months, I would say, I dare say even a year, some drafts that we have worked on very early on that will likely get a fresh update with the new information we have, and then we'll propose kind of this a new token economic. And there are certain considerations that we have to, like, there's a lot that has to happen all at once. And so, for example, I think the token swap, along with going to mainnet, makes a lot of sense. And I think sets us up for success. So the token swap is going to be a function of the scope of our token economics, which is not something that we have discussed here yet. But I'll say one or two things about what I hope comes from our token swap. So first off, I would like there to be some sort of, and I'll speak in generics because I don't want to get too into the details or the weeds because people just run with that. But I'll say this: I hope there is staking. I hope that we can take our MFT, which will then be called the Hifi token, and stake it to add some type of risk reward type relationship between the protocol and those who are active participants. Um, so I think that's what I'll say. So I think that staking would be nice, and look to other DeFi protocols as sort of like what we would pattern after. Will the swap ratio go to governance? Yes. Okay. So just to be clear, the if you have one token, then when you go through the smart contracts that burns your MFT and mints the Hifi token, you will have 10 tokens on the other side. So it's a ratio that just goes to the current holders. So if you're bullish on Hifi in our direction, then holding MFT token is the best thing for you to get exposure to what we're doing. How ready is the project? Uh, this is something that you can find out for yourself. Head over to app.hifi.finance and you tell me. And my judgment is it's very ready. And we have one iteration that's in the pipeline that we want to test before going to mainnet. So that's where we're at. And in parallel, we're working on our ecosystem, whose sole purpose is to drive TVL into Hifi. So we're kind of like working in parallel so that as we hit mainnet, we've got hopefully some cool announcements or some cool experiments, some novel collateral types that get people excited about solving a real pain point of adding liquidity, making idle assets productive, and additional capital efficiency to people who are holding, these monkey drawings worth several $100,000. I think a lot of those people would love to have some liquidity to go and buy minivans of their own, like I did with MakerDAO. Is it going to be official 10-1 or will it go to governance? Governance decides. We have begun the transition to governance. It is going to take lots of time. We are putting some protections there where the team kind of has a lot of permissions now, and will slowly pass over those permissions to the community as they qualify for, demonstrate an ability to govern it. I think knowledge is the one thing that our audience needs in order to effectively govern the protocol. I think you should pay attention to what's happening over at Compound, where there are some very interesting stakeholders who want different things with their emission schedule, for example. What's the reason for going after NFTs instead of institutions regarding fixed rate lending? Well, we've spent several years building an audience of crypto natives. Institutions are not crypto natives, and institutions will want us to hold their hand, as well as our own network does not. I don't have a background in finance. I was an engineer before taking over this project, and so if I had come from working at Goldman Sachs, maybe my network would be just flush with institutions chomping at the bit and wanting to get in on fixed rate lending. I think eventually we will bring institutions, but I think it starts with crypto natives because they look, if I look at my own network as an example, I know several VCs, several real estate investors, and they'll bring me in on calls whenever they want to understand whether or not a crypto investment is BS or not. They want to kind of sniff test it, and I'll share with them my opinion. And so I'm the crypto guy. And so if I'm not bullish or willing to park my own money places, then these guys within my network, they stay away from it or they go where I go. And so I think first we need to sell the crypto natives, and then I think the institutions will follow based on the network of the crypto natives that we demonstrate our competency and capacity for the institutions to come and park. When are classed as governance? NFT gallery, I do not understand your question. If you could rephrase it, I would love to answer it. I'll jump over to a couple of the other questions. Um, so we've covered the Hifi ecosystem is all about just driving TVL to the lending protocol. The lending protocol wins when there's TVL, and token holders win whenever we service debt. So everything is about being able to get the most amount of debt serviced in the long term. We've always been long term oriented. We've been willing to be patient, and I think we will be rewarded for that. It might be too early to ask, but how has the pawn bots marketing been viewed by the general crypto community? Generally speaking, I think that the NFT space is very noisy, and so cutting through that noise is a challenge, and is behind some of the hiring we've been doing. We still have yet to find a sort of social media specialist that we want to bring on board that basically would manage this full time. For example, right now, I think we're getting out a couple of posts a day with some average engagement. And we need a full time person on our Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and TikToks, basically producing 7 posts a day, so that we're hitting people's For You page and their Twitter feeds regularly. So it is. I think we're doing reasonable for the effort we're putting into it. Our ROI, I think, is fine. It's not something to write home about, but I think if we get someone dedicated on it, we can start seeing better results. Okay, someone's talking about why burn and not vault. Really, we're just trying to pull all the levers. Okay, so this is a question to with pawn bots. Our theme is you you can borrow against it, and then we are going to use the proceeds from anything we make from secondary market sales to buy back parts of the collection and burn it. And really, this is just an attempt to try and pull every lever we can to make our NFT project exciting and stand out from the noise. Yeah, so I think it's because by reducing the amount of the NFT collection in circulation, people are more likely to want to participate in this because it's a little bit more exciting. What are some of the gaps in the team you're looking to fill? So I went over it. Right now, smart contract engineers as we scale out the team, and push our ecosystem projects. There's just more development needs, and then something we're also doing internally is we have some of our front end engineers who have been able to contribute on the smart contract front, and so getting them training and exposure and spending time with our existing smart contract engineers helps that as well. And then marketing. So we're putting out an offer for a community manager to grow our community, and we have a social media manager we're in dire need of, somebody who has really helped grow, specifically around growth. So I would say those are smart contract engineers and social media, the places that we're looking to hire more immediate. Who do you feel like is Hifi Finance's biggest competitor? Yeah, it depends on how you position it. So, Notional and Element Finance are both, and Yield are both, all three of them are fixed rate lending platforms. And they're kind of doing very predictable things that you would expect, and it's leading to very predictable results, which I think is worth observing. So that if we decide we want to do the same things, that we can. Let's learn from them and compete with them on how they're doing their token economics, etc. When you look at the NFT lending space, you have a lot of peer-to-peer protocols, which I don't actually consider much of a competitor because of how fundamentally different it is to be able to borrow immediately from a pool. Like our opportunity is that you have instant access to liquidity through our lending protocol, and our upcoming initiatives, which we have not covered and that have not been announced. But the basic premise is that there is a way for you to sell your NFT collection for people who have onboarded into our ecosystem immediately, no matter what. And if you don't want to sell, then you can borrow against it and maintain your exposure and maybe chase other opportunities that you're seeing in the space as an NFT flipper or NFT collector. Or just life happens and you need some liquidity, and so you borrow against it, pay some medical bills, buy your family a minivan that's growing. Um, so, biggest competitor right now probably JPEG 69. Not a very professional brand, but nonetheless, I think they probably speak well to the audience they're targeting. And I think for those who have participated in that ecosystem, there's, I don't have necessary criticisms. Our approaches are going to be very different, and so it's I would say them on the NFT front. So, okay, if a person wanted to invest new funds into the Hifi ecosystem, what do you think is the most helpful way? As an example, is buying and leveraging a pawn bot views as being more helpful than buying and holding MFT? So first and foremost, MFT is at the core of everything. So if you don't have MFT exposure, that's where, if you believe in our future, that's exposure to our future. And in terms of like the borrowing and buying is completely a function of your knowledge. If you understand how the protocol works, in my learning, I learn best by doing. And so if I don't know what I'm investing in, then maybe I wouldn't hold as much MFT. But by participating in using the protocol, you're going to gain either a higher conviction or be able to surface interactions with the teams that you want to understand why things are the way they are. And so you'll learn a lot more by participating in the actual protocol. But my general judgment is that most people are going to be limited by their willingness to participate. Not so much of most people are not going to be looking at these two options. I think there is a huge bridge from people to speculate on exchanges to actually come over, use a Coinbase wallet, use MetaMask wallet, and participate in a protocol. In fact, this is one of the things that set me apart early on in Mainframe, is being a user of the protocols that we were talking about, rather than just a speculator on the tokens that were governing those protocols. So, invest in yourself and invest in your knowledge. And so that this is kind of a, I'm not giving you a clear answer because it's a multivariable problem where if you're savvy enough and you want to learn, then come and participate. But the long-term value is going to be driven to those participating in governance and steering the ship there. Given so much of the space is driven by attention, narrative, and price, and not fundamental greater goods, what is the strategy to bring Pong bots and Hifi to the forefront? Excellent question. We are, I think if we do novel, interesting things, that these headlines can write themselves. A lot of the novel, interesting things that we're working on outside of pawn bots, we're not talking about yet. And so I think as those get announced, it'll be more and more obvious, but I'll just say this. We are interested in our strategy is to bring on novel collateral types, things that you probably haven't imagined yet. And then those narratives around that should be pretty cool. And I think it's something that I think people will be talking about quite a bit. And I think one of the big challenges is, how do you grow an audience? And our audience is somewhat limited to the amount of people who either are willing to interact with the protocol in DeFi or are willing to participate in NFT projects. And if you look at the space over the last year and where the most amount of growth has happened, I don't know about what friends you hang out with or have dinner parties with, but none of my friends know what Aave, Compound, MakerDAO is. Nobody. But every single one of my friends knows about this NFT or the monkeys or Jimmy Fallon talking about his latest Moonbird purchase, and we are seeing growth in crypto is being driven by NFT adoption, and so getting aligned with that is not a bad thing. And I think we're going to see a lot of growth in our ecosystem come from not channels of existing DeFi degens, which is kind of a pay to play, rich, wealthy people game. It will come from people who are supporting artists, are interested in driving the music industry forward, are interested in new models of how NFTs can disrupt ownership for various different industries. I believe it'll be quite disruptive. So and we want to be at the forefront of it and be the financialization aspect of that. So yeah, I think, and so this is where the growth is happening. I think that's getting aligned with that is going to help accelerate our growth. And I think the attention will come. But one thing that we've struggled with is trying to put attention on something that is not ready to scale is not necessarily a good thing. You'll waste a bunch of resources before somebody can show up with a couple $100,000 and put it to work within our protocol. We're not at that point today. We will be at that point in the next several months. And so as we ramp up, we can start ramping up those efforts. How long until MFT moves from being just a governance token to have more utility? MFT's utility at this point is a governance token. We haven't even voted on our first Hifi improvement proposal, and that will be something to celebrate. It's kind of this, like, for many people who held since the token and token generation event have come along us for this long journey. It's worth celebrating. We've been patient, and because I think we only get really one good shot at this, and we've been able to learn from others who have raced ahead. And so it will happen as soon as we do the token swap. And that will happen as soon as we are settled on what the actual economics look like. This year, certainly. Is the security audit up to date with all the new add-ons? I believe the security audit is up to date with what is live on Polygon today. We're going to, of course, in the next version, update it. If you look at the change log, we're touching things that are not core to it, but nonetheless, I believe merits a security audit. And so we'll be working on that audit, and we'll either have that audit completed just before going to mainnet or just after. And so I don't perceive that the changes we've made are going to have much risk, because we're doing all the same core actions in the actual core smart contracts. We've just added some convenience functions in terms of how the approve works. We fixed one rounding error that we found, and I think there's one other tiny little tweak in there. So yeah, we improved usability, but yeah, I tend to err on the side of it's worth if we're putting real money in this, having more eyeballs on it. That's nothing in this space can be entirely bulletproof or entirely safe. But what we can do is put our best effort into getting the most amount of eyeballs, the most amount of people can comprehend it and look for vectors of attack and get that to us. So no white paper for Palm bots. We actually do have one. It has not been published. There's been some discussion and how technical we want it to be. So, probably soon. You probably hate that answer, but that is not up to me. That's up to our marketing team to use the white paper as marketing collateral. We want to get the Pawn bots message being a little bit clearer in our value proposition, and so there should be some iterations around messaging there as we've gotten feedback from you, our audience, and the community. So, what can we expect? Can we expect to be able to land USDT in a near future? I'll not share an opinion about USDT in particular, but what I will share is an opinion about how we approach new collateral or new target asset types or underlying asset types. We need to be careful. The entire risk profile of our protocol changes based on both the number of underlying asset types and the number and types of collateral. And so we want to be one thing in the minds of people who think of Hifi, think of pond bots. We need to be one thing. And so right now, the direction we're headed is to be, the world's best NFT lending protocol, and so I hope that we will put together a framework that helps suss out the risks and educate our community as to what the risks are for each asset type we add. And is not something that I imagine that will be as easy as a simple governance post. I think there needs to be real research. I think you can see, for example, MakerDAO, when adding Matic as a collateral type, they were the one who sussed out that it was like a 2 of 3 multi-sig protecting the entire Matic ecosystem. And they upgraded that to like a 5 of 7 or something like that. But we need someone competent enough with aligned interests to go in and put together a report that has their reputation online, just like a security audit, before adding these types of things. And we can, of course, grab from other protocols who have done these types of things. I generally feel things on Compound and MakerDAO are well researched, but in order to own our own destiny, we need to build out that own internal to our community team of auditors and people who have some skin in the game. And so I think that'll be something that comes. We can start building that out post token swap when there's a little bit more resources for the community to actually drive towards this end. But yeah, we need to. I'd say move slowly and be careful and make sure there's a real value proposition. Would an artist be able to mint their own art on PondBot at one point? I don't think so. I think the whole point of PondBots is to be a sales enablement tool to demonstrate to other NFT projects that, look, our infrastructure works and beautifully. And this is what you can expect that we bring as a value proposition and scale that out to many, many other NFT projects, especially NFT projects that go beyond just a profile picture. I think it's important, just as anything that MakerDAO adds as their collateral. We're interested in novel NFTs that we can be a value add to, but that we are not, necessarily the only utility. But there will, of course, be exceptions to, legitimate artists that, have a large enough audience that will sustain sort of, floor prices and demand for those assets. So let me come back over. I'll just check in on the chat, get your last questions in, and we'll wrap up here. Will there be any prospects for long-term investments in Hifi.finance? I feel as though I'm going to misunderstand that question. I think there's extremely good prospects for long-term investment in Hifi Finance. In fact, we've oriented ourselves around being a long-term investment. We've never catered towards the short term, and so re-articulate it if I'm not really capturing what idea you're communicating there. What's the price of the bots? We haven't determined internally. We have a certain target that we would like to hit, and we may pursue also pre-selling a subset depending on how large our audience growth gets between now and mint. But we intend for it to be a great learning experience for everyone who participates, and I think you're going to be a part of history here as we financialize NFTs. Can we separate already some bots? No, the bots have not been minted. So, in fact, we are still finalizing artwork on it. We've been able to get a general style enough for productions, but there's still work to do. And in fact, anyone who thinks NFTs are just a cash grab either are just referencing pure frauds that just slap something up real fast, or really just don't understand what goes into these things, because it's a serious effort. Are there any more feet on the Polygon network than the Ethereum network? I don't know. Did you mean fees? Fees on Polygon are much lower, which is why we put our public beta on there. And so people have a really affordable way to participate. But we're headed towards the Ethereum network for our mainnet launch. Um, so okay, I think from there, unless there are any other questions that pipe into the chat, this is where we're at. Let me give a summary. Our success is measured by the amount of debt we service. Our ability to service debt is a function of the TVL we get into Hifi protocol. Our ecosystem initiative is centered on driving TVL to the lending protocol itself. We want to solve a huge pain point. NFTs are illiquid, idle, capital inefficient. The Hifi lending protocol, with its surrounding infrastructure, will help make NFTs liquid, productive, and capital efficient. And so, with that, I think the future is bullish. I think that we've got tons of opportunity. Our runway has maintained at 2 years. We are not going anywhere. We're not disappearing. We will scale the team in proportion to our resources, and so there should be zero concern there. We are working in parallel on other initiatives with the ecosystem, and there are several things which we'll announce in due time. As you participate in the Pawn Bots NFT project, you will see us demonstrate a need for certain infrastructure pieces. We will build those and again expand that ecosystem as we choose a strategy of bringing on novel collateral types to grow our audience and service debt. So hopefully that gives you kind of an overview of where we're at. Our team is growing, and we're excited for the future ahead. So thank you everyone for joining me, and I look forward to the next AMA, and happy to do any follow-ups kind of in Discord or wherever I can interact with our community. We'll talk soon.